appointment
Perfect.
this morning, but maybe he'll fire me from the security team because I came in here. Right, like, please fire me from the dang security team.
Do you not want to do it?
Um, Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I'd like to be able to participate in services and other things more than I get to. I mean, I'm
Yeah, I
putting in
get you.
like 15 to 20 hours a week here.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
So, yeah. Now, I
That's
could have actually yesterday probably stayed in services more than I did because we had quite a few volunteers yesterday, more than we usually do. I got the labia because when Charlie offered it to me, Robin and I were the only two ladies, and
yeah.
Robin was doing the Haftorah. So I did go in and I was in the Torah service for a little bit and I did the labia and then I left. And then the doors opened and Avery and Randy and Gil all came in and they're all AVs. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's funny.
Still got it. Because Avery came in before I had my OB in, so sometimes Charlie will come over and say, no, giving it to Avery, sorry.
Okay.
That happens. I'm okay with that. But
Perfect. Okay. All right. Welcome
yeah.
to the mysteries of the month
Alrighty.
with Tevet being our month of topic.
Yes, gotcha.
Um, so I'll just like sit and not do it teaching style in a way. So, um, first thing I wanted to say, well, I already know your name. Anybody out there, what's your name? Put it in the chat box. And also what your favorite highlight of Hanukkah or holiday season, depending on your faith. And also what is a goal that you have for this month?
Alrighty, yeah,
You can
favorite
share.
highlight of Hanukkah. I must say it's gone downhill in recent years because of
Yeah.
people passing in my family, but and other people I care about passing during Hanukkah. But maybe it was my sister during Hanukkah, so still dealing with that.
I'm sorry.
But I mean, I do enjoy lighting the menorah, lighting the Hanukkah, and actually this year, a few years ago, Johanna gave me, may she rest in peace, gave me a few oil wicks because I had one of the Hanukkah that my parents had could do candles or oil, and I mentioned that to her, but I didn't have any oil wicks, so she got me a few. And I thought, this year in her memory, I should try to use those, right?
That's awesome.
So I'm looking, and it just so happened I thought about that at the perfect time because there were only a few left. And I happened to choose it on the fifth night. And that's how many wicks, when I counted them out, that's how many were left. I mean, it was just sort of weird. It was like a very
That's
Hanukkah thing.
awesome.
Right? I had no idea how many were left in the bag because I'd used it before and put it away. I had no idea. And then, I told Rabbi David I started using oil and he was using oil at home. So then I ordered some more online and I'm using oil now, which I kind of like.
That's actually my goal for next year.
Yeah. Because this is a little Hanukkah that the caps will hold a candle, or you can take the caps off and do the floating wick and all that.
That's
for the
amazing.
oil. But it was so weird that it's like, oh my gosh, I picked the right night where I had exactly the right number of wicks to do it. How cool is that? Um, but so yeah, really just like lighting the Hanukkah is really, bringing the light into the dark winter nights.
I love it.
The whole imagery of that.
Yeah, mine was really interesting. My highlight, I was just saying it on there. Um, so this year it was on Christmas, first night at least. And
Happens every few years.
yeah, and it was so funny because like some of my family, like they'll celebrate Christmas. And so I'm over at my parents' house and
Okay.
everything. And there was this like, you know, they got out like family videos and things like that,
Oh,
like memories and everything. And it, some of it was related to Christmas, some of it was just like other things, trips across
Sure.
America.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
there was something that like started to shift as the sun went down, and my parents, like my mom was like, well, is there anything you want to do or anything like that? And I was like, actually, yes. I'm like, I want to listen. I want to share with you guys the uh Hanukkah song 1, 2, 3, and 4 by Adam Sandler. And so we listened to all four. They were laughing so hard. And it was so funny to see the energy like being shared, that light being shared in different ways
wow.
on that
That's
day.
beautiful.
It was amazing. And so a goal. What's a goal for you this month?
Uh, well, yeah. I sort of but I took over this assistant treasurer's job. So my main goal for the month is to make sure I get all the spreadsheets. That's not a very exciting one, but I need to get all the spreadsheets cleaned up and get it so that I'm more comfortable supporting it because I'll probably be doing it for the next 4 years.
Oh wow.
So, because it's usually like a 2-year position, and then you get voted into it for another 2 years. And so,
That's a
healthy
good
and
goal
able, I'll
though.
probably be doing it for the next 4 years or so. So I may as well set it up so that I can support it. So that's probably, I mean, that's not a very exciting goal.
That's
Other than that, I fell off kind of the weight maintenance plan, and I need to get back on it and lose a little bit and try to start getting more physically active.
I love that.
So,
Mine is actually kind of similar to your first goal.
okay.
I have so much computer work and things like that. And I uh I like setting up classes and things like that,
Sure.
the promotion of them and
Yeah.
also getting the PowerPoint points done or sheets
Yeah,
done.
sure.
That's actually while Jana's off in Nashville, I have like a hard time focusing sometimes when I'm
Oh,
around other
okay.
people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is like
Opportunity
for like the next few
I'll
months.
see. Yeah.
Oh man. So, um, you know, it yeah, just totally like lost my thought. It's okay. What do you know about the month of Tevet?
Well, a little bit of what you already had on here, obviously.
Oh,
Very end of Hanukkah.
hang on.
Is Zach still here?
No, he's doing the walk.
Crap.
Hmm?
Crap. Big
Yeah,
crap.
sorry,
He did not.
doing the
Where are
hostage walk.
Where are our order forms?
Oh,
Oh, is right. And I'll check again, but
yeah.
jeez, it is so crapped up. What a huge waste of time.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I mean, usually Hanukkah runs into Tevet, well,
Yeah.
Hanukkah and Tevet coincide. And then we have Tevet 10, which is the fast that we observe because of the Babylonian breach of Jerusalem. And that fast is always held on the 10th of Tevet, even if it's on a Friday. It won't fall on Shabbos, but it can't fall on Friday. The way the calendar is manipulated. And this year it wasn't Friday. So you actually are still fasting even after you light Shabbos candles because the fast isn't over yet. And other than that, there's not a whole lot. I mean, you talked about the zodiacs and stuff like that, but there aren't any other holidays or observances in Tevet.
That's
It's
actually a pretty good
almost like
synopsis.
Heshvan in a sense, except for the end of Hanukkah, that, you
Yeah.
got Shabbos and that.
That's a pretty good, like most people may not know
Yeah,
a lot about
yeah,
Tevet.
yeah.
So I'm gonna go over a few
Okay.
key concepts. What we
Okay.
have today is I'm gonna go over concepts of Tevet, some Kabbalistic insights of the connection to Capricorn. I wrote it all down. Also the letter Ayin.
Mhm.
How does that connect?
Okay,
That's where we're also going to do a little bit of a meditation and a little art
Okay,
project.
cool.
So tiny thing. Kabbalistic insights of the tribe of Dan,
Hmm.
and then a little bit of
How
Torah
is
study.
Dan connected? You'll explain that, I hope. Okay.
Yep.
It's like, I read Capricorn, and okay, I think of Dan as more Libra because of the scales and doing
True.
it Dan, so
So one thing
you'll
that's
get there.
in regards to, well, just a little,
Okay,
since you said that,
okay,
and I'm actually teaching this with the kids that I teach at Temple B'nai Israel at
okay.
Tampa
Yeah.
Bay International School.
Oh, okay, you're teaching there now?
Yeah, I took over for Rabbi Danny Foley,
Okay.
and we're going over the different tribes, and
Mm.
my next lesson plan has to do with like the tribes and what they're connected to in regards to the zodiac.
Okay, yeah.
Now, what's interesting is there are different perspectives. Not one or any of them can, like, they're not all correct
Mhm, okay,
because
yeah.
it's based off your outlook.
Okay.
Like the Arizal
Sure,
has his own model, and I can't remember the other rabbi. They're completely different.
yeah,
But who's gonna argue with them?
Yeah, exactly,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So like, the point is to see like what the connection point is from the perspective,
okay.
and then create your own, opinion on it and connection with it. So anything with Kabbalah is like that.
Hey, we were having a whole discussion on Monday, and nothing to do with Kabbalah at all.
Yeah.
Where Shifra and Pua, what do you call it?
In the Exodus, the
The midwives.
midwives, there we go.
Were they Hebrews
Right.
or were they Egyptians? They served the Hebrews as midwives, but were they actually also Hebrew women?
Interesting.
Or were they Egyptian women? And we don't know. There's no answer, right? But it's funny because, like, I asked a couple people who weren't in the session with us on Monday just to see what they would say. And, Elion came up with the one opinion that matched one of the things we studied on Monday, which is, oh, they must have been Egyptian because Pharaoh wouldn't have asked Hebrew women to kill Hebrew babies. Right.
Interesting. I remember
Right,
having
and
the
that's
same discussion at the CY.
Yeah, right. And then, other people will say, oh, yeah, they were, when I first read about them and then read that, oh, well, there were theories that they were actually Yocheved and Elisheva, who was Aaron's wife, or they were Yocheved and Miriam. And then the opinion is, well, maybe Miriam was too young to actually be a midwife, right? So maybe it really was Elisha, it was Yocheved and Elisheva. And I thought, well, yeah, so they would go before Pharaoh and pretend to be Egyptian and use Egyptian names, but they were really Hebrew women. Why not? And that's apparently also other people came up with that idea, but nobody knows.
Yeah.
Maybe the plain text, says Hebrew midwives. So does that mean midwives that served the Hebrews or midwives that were also Hebrews that served the Hebrew? Obviously, they were serving Hebrew women. But obviously also there had to be more than two, right? So they were really like representatives of a guild, but none of that's in the text. So we just don't know. You can make up whatever you want, right? And be valid. It's all valid midrash.
True.
We don't know.
So we're going to use that kind of way of thinking in regards to
Yeah. I mean,
going.
you can examples like
I love
this is
that.
foreign to me because it happens all the time. So in fact, I've been studying Talmud with Priscilla on Wednesday nights for several years now. So,
That's awesome.
of course, but they always try to reconcile things.
Yeah.
So like your Arizal and the other rabbi who had different ideas about how to map the zodiacs of the months or whatever.
Yeah.
They would have said, oh, well, the Arizal's talking about this calendar and this one's talking about that calendar. And they would somehow make it work.
It's like there, and here's the thing is like with the zodiac, we have different ages, but that's like a whole different topic. I
Yeah.
can't really go into all of that right now,
Yeah.
but so let's get back to the key concepts of Tevet.
Sure.
We know it's the 10th month,
Yes.
from like our
Yes,
Hebrew
sure,
calendar.
yeah, I mean, Tishrei
Because
is
there's
the
also a
month,
rabbi
yeah.
calendar I found out
Yeah.
last night that it's actually the 4th month. And I'm like, okay.
There are 4 different New Years, so it depends which New Year you
Exactly.
use, which month it is, but we tend to think of Tishrei as the 7th month.
Exactly.
And
And
well,
then,
then, yeah, Heshvan is the 8th and Kislev is the 9th, and
yeah. And
Oh,
it's okay, so it's the 10th month of the Hebrew calendar. It's also related to the um zodiac Capricorn.
okay.
Um beginning days of Tevet is during Hanukkah, which we
Mhm.
mentioned. The winter solstice is often in Tevet. Not always, but
Yeah.
because of the way the calendar
yeah.
is this
This
past
year
year,
certainly was, yeah.
I think it was actually in Kislev.
Oh, wait a minute, you're right,
Yeah.
yeah, because it was the 21st and,
Yeah.
wait a minute. That was, yeah, oh, yeah, that's, yeah, okay, yeah.
Because we had
sorry,
that
you're
extra
right, yeah, it
month.
wasn't it was before Hanukkah, so yeah, it was, okay, oops.
No, it's okay. This is a lot, you know?
Yeah.
And then darkness and coldness. I mean, our topic of, discussion when we talk about like even the months, we're looking at the narrative from like Israel, you know? It's the rainy season, even though it is raining right now. I mean, it's great, but like other parts of the world, it wouldn't necessarily align with that. Like if you go to Australia, it's summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Tevet is connected with this darkness and coldness, and there's not a lot of light.
Yeah.
It's
very northern hemisphere.
it's very northern hemisphere, exactly. A Kabbalistic insight, which I'm gonna say it, but we'll probably get deeper into it throughout.
Okay.
The body derives pleasure from the body. That's a Kabbalistic insight from the month of Tevet.
Okay.
And then the meaning is good or tov. Reminds us to do good or do tzedakah, essentially.
Mhm.
It's connected with the Hebrew letter ayin, which we'll get to more about
Okay,
that.
yeah, that. Okay, I was spelling it.
And then also
9 isn't even 10 in gematria.
no, but again, that
Yud is.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
So like it really
can see if
depends.
Yud connected 10 and Yud is 10.
But again, what calendar are you looking at? Is it the
Okay.
rabbinical?
Okay,
Then
there you go.
it's 4.
Yeah.
That would be Dalet.
There you go.
So it's
Yeah, but iron's way down there. That's in the 100 section.
right.
Right.
And then Esav is connected to Tevet.
Okay.
The energy of chaos, which is really
Okay.
interesting.
Hmm.
The organ is the liver, and it is said that Pharaoh's heart was actually transformed to a liver, Midrash,
Okay.
to allow for the miracle. Like, so there had to
It's
be
heart being hardened type of thing.
this, the hardening of
It
the
was
heart.
cirrhosis of the heart. It's a cirrhosis of the liver.
So it's really interesting to see how the rabbis make
Okay.
commentaries
Yeah.
like of like, oh no, it wasn't a heart anymore, it was a liver. It was like
But and I hadn't made the thought about Pharaoh's heart. We're getting there pretty soon. In a couple of weeks we are orange schmaltz.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to Moshe's and Pharaoh's heart hardening. Years ago, Johanna would often teach things, give a very simple lesson, and then the more you thought about it, the more you realize, oh, right. So, like one morning, she was leading davening, and she kind of paused, and she was talking about the Shema and the V'ahavta, right? And B'chol Levavecha, with all your heart, right? And most of us growing up in the 20th, 21st century think of heart as the seat of emotion and feelings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're like, no, when the Shema was written, they thought it was the seat of the mind and thought.
That's That's
So I wonder how the whole liver thing connects with that.
the liver, like, as you'll, and this is a
Mhm.
perspective,
Yeah.
connected to the soul.
Oh, okay.
So if we
Wow.
think about the soul and the soul perspective,
Okay.
it sees more than just the moment that's in front of us.
Okay. Wow.
So his heart being hardened turned into a liver.
See, I'm almost thinking, the way
know?
Johanna said the heart was the seat of thought.
Yeah.
You could think of Pharaoh's heart being hardened as he became hard-headed, and he said, "No, it's stubborn. No, I'm not going to let them go after all." That he was not that it was turned into, like, when I was growing up and I
Yeah.
heard the Seder stuff, I would think, oh, they made him angry, or they made him feel hatred or fear or something. That's what it meant by hardening his heart. But it's not, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was emotional hardening. It was more just, no, I'm not going to let them go.
Yeah.
He softened his he softened his thinking, this is dangerous. I got to let them go. And then it's like, no, I don't want to let them go. Like he was thinking between the two things, let them go, no, keep them here and make their slavery even worse. And he went in that direction. Like his thoughts were turned, not his necessarily emotions were turned.
Interesting. So many thoughts are coming through with that. No, it's great. I love this. This dialogue is great. It's funny you should mention anger, because one of the themes of Tevet is the tikkun through the energy of anger.
Oh, wow.
So there is that
Okay.
energy in the air of, like, we have the opportunity in regards to anger to perform a tikkun. And that statement alone, that blanket statement, could mean so many things.
Of course it could. Yeah. Wow.
Then, of course, the tribe of Dan is connected to Din, which is judgment. And we feel that heaviness of that judgment, that structure, that, within, like the teachings of Dan. But I also agree with you in regards to Libra. It's kind of funny to see and hold. I'm like, oh, I see, I get that, I feel that, but I can also see this other perspective. I'm like, whoa. And then, of course, the last one I have on here is Tevet is connected to redemption and coming of Mashiach.
Okay.
So
I hadn't really heard of those being connected to Tevet, but so interesting.
it's interesting because
for 3 women today, they may be feeling that. There were 3 hostages released this morning. They're now in IDF care.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 women, probably young women who are at Nova.
Yeah. Wow.
They were released alive. So
wow.
Yeah.
Just holding our hearts and
Yeah.
families' hearts and prayers going to them, like, truly. So Kabbalistic insights in regards to the month of Tevet is darkness and transformation. I mean, what you just mentioned was one of the most darkest moments of our life in Jewish history.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that transformation, a glimpse of it, at least today. Tevet is the month that challenges us to see light within darkness. It is associated with judgment, Dean, and the need for discipline. The 10th of Tevet, marking the siege of Jerusalem, symbolizing moments when external constraints press upon us, encouraging introspection and resilience. The Hebrew letter associated with Tevet is ayin. It means eye, and emphasizes the power of perception and spiritual vision. During this month, we are invited to look beyond the surface appearances and recognize divine order within chaos. And going back to that Pharaoh moment, like you even think of, like, the all-seeing eye. It's connected to Egyptian,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. And that eye is Hashem. It's the source. And even though for that one moment, he was hardening his heart, right? He wasn't, in some belief, transforming into a liver. Like, there was chaos. There was chaos all around. I mean, the Israelites were fed up with, everything. And so there was an internal chaos going on. And then that was also because of this rebellion creating chaos in Egyptian land, because their structure is about to be like pulled out beneath them. But really, that all-seeing eye, that long picture, no one knew what was going to happen next. They didn't know what we know. And like, all happened for that light, for that blessing, that redemption. So it's really interesting to see like that all play out, that we can actually make those connections today. Going into Capricorn, it's on the second page. The key concepts of Capricorn. The mascot of Capricorn is the goat.
This is true.
The Taurus significance of the goat. Rivka, the first time we ever see a goat mentioned is when Rivka asks Yaakov for 2 goats for Yitzhak in Bereshit. A parallel to this is 2 goats offered up during Yom Kippur, which is the transmutation. It's the refinement. It's the tikkun. So we can see throughout like history these little parallels. Overcoming struggles and challenges. This is the time where it's the winter. So like, a lot of things come to a pause, and you have to kind of learn to go inward to create a plan.
Yeah.
And so Capricorn, depending on where you live in the world, like maybe you are having, like
barbecues and surf parties and all that. You're in Australia. It's like, this is cool.
but it provides an opportunity for us to actually take a pause, align, and create a plan, a structure for the bigger picture, and knowing that we may not obtain it quickly. But
moving towards it.
And so that brings in structure and goal setting, which is what we started with. It's connected to time.
Days are shorter.
And
those are starting, because everything's late this year, they're starting to get longer now.
Exactly.
Well, they're always going to start getting, almost always going to start getting longer in Tevet at some point.
Right.
It's the solstice will be either at the end, in Kislev or early Tevet.
Yeah. And, even though
there's still the awareness of how short the days are as they gradually start getting longer.
Yeah. And, like that, like when we think of, and I'll actually hit this concept in like a paragraph, but, like when you're preparing for Shabbat.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Unit 8, I'm here in the library with Catriel enjoying our study session over.
Good. I'll hold that thought until we get to, and I'll bring it in. Rest, which we mentioned, discipline, responsibility. Right.
And I've taken a responsibility on too. So yeah, all of this is like very relevant right now.
And the concept of growth also, because it's an earth sign.
Yeah.
We actually have to be super grounded, aware of our surroundings, for us to actually accomplish something.
Yes.
So the Kabbalistic insights for this is, for Capricorn, is discipline and building. Capricorn ruled by Saturn, or Shabtai in Hebrew. That's
really?
I
never knew that.
I actually looked this up like a week ago, because I was like, there's gotta be an actual planet that we call this thing other than Saturn. I'm like, it bothers me. But when I started to well, I'll give that thought in a moment. I'll read the rest of this and major insights. So Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, Shabtai in Hebrew, embodies themes of discipline, responsibility, and the establishment of structure. Saturn teaches that though limitations, we achieve growth and stability. In Jewish mysticism, Saturn is connected to the idea of tikkun, rectification, requiring us to transform restrictive energies into opportunities for refinement and higher purpose. Now, because there's that kind of light when we said the word Shabtai, what does that make you think of?
Oh, I must admit, when I first hear that name, Shabtai, I think of the false prophet.
Oh, okay.
That's me.
Okay, that was okay. So the second thought, that was my first thought when I heard that. But
Yeah, Shabbat,
Shabbat.
Shabbat and rest, and
so
and,
it's
rest, but also a rejuvenation.
So it's really interesting. Something that I just taught the kids is if we looked at the days of the week, there's a planet rulership for every single one of them.
Okay.
Some of it is super identifiable in English.
Okay.
Others in more Latin languages like Spanish or French.
Okay. Yeah.
So Sunday, what planet rules the sun? Monday, moon, lunas.
Yeah.
Tuesday, Martes.
Oh, okay.
Mars.
Oh, okay.
Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, Lundi, Mardi, Mercury. Yeah.
Miracles. Oh, you took French. See, I know Spanish. Oh my God. I don't know French, so when someone told me French, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Lundi is Lundi, Mardi, Mercury, Jeudi, Vendredi, Samedi, Dimanche.
So
that at least.
Mercury is Wednesday. Jueves, or what is
Judy?
Judy is Jupiter.
Okay.
For Thursday, and then Friday, Viernes.
Oh, okay.
Venus.
Yeah.
Saturday or Shabbat is Saturn, Saturday.
Okay. Yeah.
Shabbat,
Okay.
Shabtai.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
So it's really interesting. Now, I had this thought, like, have you ever had a conversation about Shabbat with someone who's not Jewish?
Oh, of course. Yes.
What comes up for you when you're explaining Shabbat?
Usually when I have that kind of conversation, on the path, not anymore. It
Yeah.
was related to work, right? Because, I would have to, every time I had a new boss, I would have to sit down and explain that, why if they call me on Friday night with a work problem, I'm not answering until Saturday night. And the most fun I had having that conversation was with a woman who was like insanely jealous.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Because Jen was like, "Oh wow, that's just like, you mean you turn everything, you don't watch any?" I know, if you're not. And she's like, "Wow, that's great." And I said, "Yeah, the focus is on, if you have a family, is being with your family, being with your friends, going to synagogue, things like that." And she just thought that sounded wonderful. She wished she had that.
So that's really awesome. She acknowledged the light of Shabbat.
Yeah. Yes.
Have you ever had the other conversation?
Oh yeah, like how do you do that, and how
The
horrible that
restrictive,
is.
right?
But I always try, when I first started keeping Shabbos, that was my attitude too. It's like, wait, I can't do blah, blah, I can't do blah, 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 blah. That's what I want to do. That's what I do for fun. Why can't I have fun,
Yeah.
instead of focusing on what you do in place of, like I was having a discussion yesterday with Brian, when doing security. And, thanking him for, because he doesn't get a lot of days off, so spending that time here, doing security. But of course, it was Shabbat school, and so Abby and Cora and Talia were here. And he said, but for me, the Sabbath isn't so much about whether he's driving or doing this or that. It's about, and he said they do try to show off devices at home, and they play board games together and things like that. They spend FaceTime to, not have FaceTime.
Real FaceTime.
Interaction with each other, and he's really with his family. He said for him, that's what it's about. That's once you start becoming more observant, for me, that's what it became about what I am doing, and not the things that were tempting to do, but that, I don't miss.
So what I want to draw is a parallel
Mhm.
to the restrictive Shabbat
Okay.
to oh, Jana's coming in. Cool. That was late. Hey love, we're in the middle of the conversation of the insights of Capricorn.
Hello.
Um, so what I really want to like draw a parallel to is there are some people that look at Shabbat
Mhm.
as this restrictive time that's unbearable. How could you even possibly think of doing that? It's an inconvenience, all these different things. It's it's not seeing the light. It's the darkness.
Yes.
That's the darkness of
There
Tevet.
you go. Oh, wow. Okay.
The redemption qualities is in that, wow, you know what? I may not have all the answers, but I know that there's a plan.
Mhm.
There's a divine plan, not my plan. And when I take a step back, that light of Tevet is going to come online, just like the light of Shabbat.
Yeah.
Because the two are connected with time.
Hmm.
The two are connected
Wow.
with the structure. And in order for us to really actually have a divine flow, we have to acknowledge the structure. Otherwise, if we didn't acknowledge that structure, it'd be like any other mundane day.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit of an insight
Okay.
that I was like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do let's see. Oh yeah, I have a question on here. How do boundaries help or hinder personal growth?
Well, the first time I really thought about boundaries goes way, 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 way back to we were still living in Connecticut. It was Mrs. Fine's class. I was probably about 6 years old in Sunday school. And, she said something that, parents make rules and give their children boundaries, and they do it out of love because you need to, they're trying to protect you.
Yeah.
And they know things that you don't, and they know things that are dangerous or things that might be bad for you. And so they're actually they're giving you boundaries as an expression of love. My parents were pretty strict. I had a hard time thinking of it that way.
Yeah.
And of course, usually if I wanted to do something, they'd say, well, and I'd say, well, Sarah's allowed to do that. They'd say, well, if Sarah were jumping off a bridge, would you jump off the bridge? Right? And think of it that way, but that's what, if you think of boundaries as rules, and it gives you it in a way, those boundaries, well, first of all, if there's certain boundaries, I think they do help personal growth because they can also be challenges to overcome. Well, I can't do it this way. How I need to accomplish such and such. How within these boundaries or these rules of being, how do I accomplish that?
Yeah.
And if you succeed, despite the
odds,
pressures and the odds and the obstacles towards accomplishing your goal, and you still succeed, that certainly leads to personal growth.
Totally.
So I think of them more, I guess they can hinder personal growth if there's something you really, really wanted to do.
Yeah.
That you thought would help you grow. Like, I really wanted to go to Jewish summer camp. And that was never going to happen. My parents one year sent me to a Jewish day camp for like 3 weeks, and I spent the entire 3 weeks trying to figure out how I could avoid going to camp because it was not.
They have a adult Jewish summer camp.
Yeah. Oh, well, there was Ramah, there was Tel Yehuda, there were all sorts. There was no money.
Right.
That was the problem. So it was never going to happen, so in a sense that was, but so it was like, well, how over the summer can I grow my Jewish identity? Or like when I first moved to Florida.
Yeah.
And I visited this area. And so I knew it was going to be challenging being a Jewish kid moving from Long Island to Clearwater, Florida.
Oh yeah, that's night and day.
And and it was ironic. The first day I walked into Beth Show, well, first of all, the first day I walked into Pinellas Park High School, which was a little on reddish neck side. When I went to homeroom, We had homeroom and gym and we were split out by alphabetically.
Yeah.
And I just went looking for somebody who I thought didn't look like a redneck, to be honest. And we found each other and we only told each other our first names. We're both afraid to go to the last name thing because I wasn't, she'd asked me if I was Jewish, I would have said yes, but I wasn't advertising, right?
Yeah.
And apparently she felt the same way because Friday night I walked in here and she was a member here. Right?
That's funny.
And then the other thing that happened is there was a boy I knew not well from Huntington, and his family had moved down here a year before I did, and I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I walked in here and I see a kid from Huntington. But the other thing I did, like in terms of personal growth, is I started reading Jewish authors.
I love that.
So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I'm not in the kind of Jewish community I was in Long Island, but I can read about Jewish community. I can read Jewish authors. I can try to,
Yeah.
find another way to
You pivoted.
to have that Jewish education
It's
and
awesome.
not miss, it helped a little with what I was missing. Although when I asked mom, I was reading a bunch of Elie Wiesel novels and that upset mom a little bit. Why is my 14-year-old reading Holocaust fiction?
Oh my gosh.
But I wasn't reading it for the Holocaust fiction. I was reading it for the descriptions of the Jewish community that was.
Yeah.
More so, I mean, it was a tragedy that was lost, but when he wrote about his childhood before,
Yeah.
before everything happened, that's what I was interested in.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
But
interesting.
so, I guess for the most part, boundaries or I found ways to overcome, and I think most people do
Yeah.
find ways to overcome. It may seem like a hindrance, but hopefully for most people with decent mental health,
Yeah.
it becomes an opportunity for growth.
That's awesome.
How about you?
I feel like I think like what comes to me naturally was the topic of Shabbat.
Okay.
I guess also it could be like preparing for a class as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
Is like sometimes it feels like living so far away, having different things like that, and it's like, okay, so how can I use this boundary to like to help me? Sometimes it's even like learning, like wanting to read a book or whatever, and then I realize I have Audible. Like I got lots of time that I'm actually driving, so
Wow.
maybe it actually reads faster than I do.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So yeah, there's things like that that's come up recently.
Wow.
Jana,
Yeah.
what about you?
I think boundaries, so just coming from the perspective of, I think we have to set our own personal boundaries as well. I have, and I have been known to be like a pushover in the past.
Hmm.
And like have did not have boundaries with certain people or certain experiences, and it caused me to like just burn out super quickly. It may have caused some strain on different relationships because I didn't have those boundaries in place. Um, I think in terms of Shabbat, even though that I'm not quite where I want to be with that, it's um I think it's a great reset. It's a good boundary to have because I think we all, whether people realize it or not, we need that in the week. We need some kind of reset like that where we can just go in and connect with ourselves and with our families, um, and just disconnect from the outside world a little bit, you know?
I love that. That's beautiful. So now we're going to go into the topic of ayin.
Okay.
And can you see it on here, hon?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. I wasn't sure if I was doing it right, so so
Well, I see Kabbalistic insights. I see the outline.
yeah, that's
Okay.
what we're going over.
Okay.
And if you have any type of, we're about to, right after I read these, we're gonna do a little bit of meditation, and a very short art project. So if you have any like pastels or color
I
crayons or
actually think I do have pastels in my backpack.
perfect, awesome, get them out. Um, so key concepts of the Hebrew letter ayin,
Mhm.
the symbolism, perception. Ayin represents insights and perception. The eye is considered to be the most revealing sensory organ and a symbol of a person's entire being. Divine light. Ayin represents the spiritual light of God, which is greater than the light of the sun and stars.
Hmm.
Kind of still gives you that image of the all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
Or Lord of the Rings, but that's a little darker version. Humility. Ayin is a silent letter which represents humility. Divine providence. Ayin represents God's provision and sustenance, both physically and spiritually. Omniscience. Ayin represents God's all-seeing nature. So I'm going to take this moment for us to just get really comfortable in our seat. It's actually really good to not lay down for this one, just to sit and feel your feet on the earth. Let's take a few deep breaths in. Connecting with our heart, allowing the light to come through, and exiting any dark energies, any darkness. Take a deep breath in, allowing the light to come through us, exiting any gray energies. Now this time, taking a deep breath in, allowing that light to fill you up, illuminating the soul and the heart, and light to radiate through you as you exit. It's a time to connect with your creator. Imagine yourself and only you and your creator. It's like a huge bubble around you where you get to interact. Allow all the heaviness from your daily life to kind of just drop and fade away. When you're in this space, it comes up for you. Allow yourself to just take a moment, just feel the energies of the divine flowing through you. Knowing that the divine light flowing through you is in everything, everyone. You are part of the cosmic energies. Now let's take our focus and bring it in to the heart. Taking our hands, bringing them to the heart. Noticing our heartbeat, our vitality. Allowing ourselves to just breathe into this moment. The heart is the bridge from the spiritual world into the physical world. Now realizing that even in this space with you and the divine, your feet are still grounded on this earth. Moving our awareness down into the solar plexus, into the soul. Find your belly button, bring it up about 2 inches. Take a deep breath in this area. This is where our soul dwells. This is where our personal power is found. Allow yourself to merge your personal power, the divine power. The synchronization more so. The godly soul. There are different layers to our soul. The nephesh, our physical body, our physical needs, our wants. The ruach, which is connected. What we're doing in meditation right now. Neshama, which is even deeper than that. It's the all-knowing soul of our sole purpose here on this planet. Recognizing the space that there is a bigger picture. Now let's allow our nefesh, the help of ruach, to connect with our neshama. Let's take a deep breath in. Let's tune into the space of the nefesh. Even when the world around us has a plan for us, our purpose is to turn inward and connect deeper to the divine, allowing us to recognize boundaries in the structure we need for our own specific being. Allowing ourselves to recalibrate, bring it inward, connecting us again to the heart. and receiving this divine blessing from Hashem. And now allowing ourselves to say thank you, gratitude for this experience. To start recognizing our groundedness on the earth, wiggling our hands and our toes, wiggling our wrists, our ankles, rotating them, moving our legs, really getting in, maybe even doing a circular motion with our hips. Coming back into this now moment. And we'll end this meditation with 3 shaloms. Shalom. Shalom. Last one. Shalom. When we're ready, coming back. All right. So this is the part where we're going to just take a few minutes, not a whole long thing,
Okay.
just very short and brief. Now allow ourselves to take our pastels that
Okay.
are in front of us, just almost capturing the experience that we just had in color,
Oh, wow.
grounding in the energy of Tevet. I'm etherically giving you paper and pastels. We can probably just open one since there's just 2 of us. So we have the soft pastels and
Okay.
the oil. So I'm just going to give us about 5 minutes or so for us to kind of tune in and allow ourselves to capture this moment. All right.
I don't really do art. So
It's okay. There's no wrong answer for this ever.
I do have to share this. When I was in like first, second grade,
Mhm.
the art teacher of my elementary school, right, Mr. White, who was actually a very large African American man named Mr. White, which I always thought was funny. But anyway, we were doing just one of those projects, like take crayons or markers or pastels like this and just scribble on paper.
Mhm.
And I just sat there looking at it like, I don't know what to do. And so finally I was watching what other kids were doing and I tried to copy what they were doing as best I could.
Mhm.
And he actually told me, he said, if you want to just go sit over there and read, don't waste art supplies.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's horrible.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing is I was usually like for almost every art class, I was a gopher for the other kids. It's like, I want the blue crayon that's at the other end of the table. Could you go get it for me? And that's what I did in art class.
Oh my gosh.
So talk about boundaries. It's like it's a boundary in my own mind that I don't do this. You know what I mean? Which is sad, and you shouldn't have that. But that's what. So my creativity is usually like if I see. I mean, I do crocheting, right? And I knit before, but I crochet pretty.
Mhm.
please repeat. Huh? He's not repeating. Okay. Uh, No, so like, I can take like, see a crochet pattern or something like that, and I can do a riff on it. If I see what's, I was like, oh, I think I'll change this and do that and do something different with, but I need like someone to start me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need something to, I can't
So
just like, I'm not good at just like starting, unfortunately.
I'll help you on that. What
No,
color like represents your soul?
I don't know if I want that color.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm thinking like, I'm thinking of like something with the night sky. Okay. And yet, even in a dark night sky. There are. Oh, there's what we can call it.
I apologize, I forgot the spray. Oh, sorry. Still have a couple minutes. I'm gonna do probably till 12:05. I have no idea what I just did. About one more minute. Might as well sign it. What is it, 25? Okay. All right. pastels down. All right, if you want to take a moment to just kind of what was going on in your mind of why you put down what you put down. Do you want to
Okay.
start?
I was thinking about the night sky
Night sky.
because, certainly, obviously, for most of the winter, nights are longer than days. But even when you look up at the darkness of that night sky, first of all, go out tonight, you'll see Saturn out there. You're
That's
looking in
true.
the right direction. You can see the planet, if you really take time to go outside, and the older you get, you need to spend more time outside because it takes a while for your eyes to adjust, but the longer you're outside and allowing your eyes to adjust to the darkness, you can see the stars in the sky, you can see the planets, you can find the light within the darkness.
Oof, I love that.
That's kind of where I was going.
Do you want to share yours or you're like, I'm good. All right.
I drew a blob with
You're-
little things in it.
I always like to ask. You don't have to. Honey, would you like to share?
Sure.
Oh, that's pretty.
Wow.
So, I don't know, that's just kind of the image I saw um in my head was just this heart with all the different colors around it, representing the different chakra points, the different parts of the soul, and then blending them all together because our heart is the center point of that. And then you can kind of added in some white that are kind of like rays going out, but yeah, just kind of thinking through like our heart is our center point and just knowing that other parts of our soul are connected to that.
I love that. I did a that well, you could sort of see it. For me, what was coming through was I started off with like my soul, and then like I used colors that I really liked in that area, and then also around is kind of like the chaos. It's like all of the stuff, you know, and and obligations and all these wants and needs and everything like that, you know. And then there's like kind of my boundary of me with source energy. And it's like, all right, like everything's being sorted out divinely. Like trust the process. It might feel a little chaotic at moments, but you got this.
Yeah.
So I hope that was a good experience for you guys. And I'm very, very colorful right now. Um, and then, so going back to our sheet, we're gonna speak briefly Kabbalistic insights in regards to the tribe of Dan. The tribe associated with Tevet. Dan represents judgment and discernment. Dan's emblem, the serpent, reflects the ability to overcome challenges and transform potentially harmful energies into tools for growth. It's funny, now that you mention it, you said the scales. There's actually two different tribes that are connected with the scales.
Okay,
Because of course, different interpretations.
sure.
And so there's two different symbols
Okay.
for Dan,
Okay.
the serpent
Yes.
and the scales.
Yes.
So, and then believe I have to double check on this one. It might be Levi because yes, it's technically has the
Yeah. The
what I
pictures.
think it also may have the scales too. I have to double check, but again, very
Should know this,
interesting.
but it's not coming.
So
No, it's not coming.
we're going to shift gears. I know it looks like a lot here, but it actually goes pretty quickly. But we're going to say the bracha for studying Torah. It is right here. So, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al lasok b'divrei Torah. So, essentially what I did last night, because I was like, where do I even start?
Mm.
I went on to Safaria. I had the first text, which is not this one, and then I just typed in Tevet. And
Okay.
all these incredible sources came up, and I was like, oh yeah, this is painting a picture right here.
Okay.
So we're gonna start with Exodus 9:22. On the 8th of Tevet, God said to Moses, raise your hand toward heaven, and there will be hail all throughout Egypt on humans, on animals, and all the vegetation of the field in Egypt. I'm also going to read the second one as well. Exodus 10:1, the 8th plague. Locusts on the 15th Tevet, 24:48. God told Moses and Aaron to announce the 8th plague, locusts. If you had to create an image in your mind and verbalize it in regards to what Tevet looked like based off of these verses, what would be going through your mind right now?
About as scary and as unpleasant and miserable as you can possibly get. I mean, the plagues were really, you know, growing up going to Seder's and or even like kids say they have the little puppets for the frogs and stuff, and it's like, but what they were going through was really, really terrible
Yeah.
and terrifying. I mean, yes, their magicians could also turn the water into blood, but the Nile was their source of life. And for that to be turned to blood. And then, of course, there were dead frogs everywhere because frogs are amphibians, right?
Mhm.
And their water was turned into blood, so they're dying, they're dying. Yeah, and then, of course, there were vermin because you've got all the dead frogs and what's gonna, right? And so, I mean, it was just what was happening was terrible. The darkness, it was so dark that you literally couldn't see your hand in front of your face. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
so, my gosh, to associate it with that month
It's really
is
interesting, is
really
it not?
horrible. Yeah.
It's like, whoa,
I don't
okay.
associate it more with Heshbon because Heshbon's the Mar Heshbon, with no holidays. Although I guess that Tevet just has the tail end of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
But,
It's really interesting. And,
Yeah.
and the fact that it actually happened during that
Yeah.
month is
yeah,
really
I didn't know that.
interesting.
to say.
Hun, any insights?
No, similar to what Wendy said, and I don't know, it just feels bleak and dark
It's like
in the moments.
it's literally like hell on earth,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
ice. Hell freezes over.
Yeah.
Literally.
And hell, Egypt, right? I mean, Israel relies on rain and dew, but
Mhm.
Egypt doesn't rely on rain, they rely on the Nile.
Mm.
So just having water, whether it's frozen water like hail or water falling from the sky, was something that they just weren't, I'm sure, used to at all.
Right. So,
Also just, miserable and terrifying,
right. Excuse me. Oh, now we're gonna shift gears a little bit more in regards to Tevet,
Mhm.
but into the Tanakh rather than, into the book of Second Kings. So I wrote down 4 different verses here. In the 9th year of his reign, on the 10th day of the 10th month, Nebuchadnezzar moved against Jerusalem. With his whole army, he besieged it, and they built towers against it all around. The city continued in a state of siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. By the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine had become acute in the city. There was no food left for the common people. Then the wall of the city was breached. All the soldiers left the city by night through the gate between the double walls which is near the king's garden. The Chaldeans were all around the city, and the king set out for the Arba. What's unique about this particular text is it mentions 2 months here. Tevet, and what's the other month?
Oh,
No. 4th month.
ninth day of the. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, Pesach is, Nisan's the fourth, yeah, wait a minute. What's the 4th month then?
Tammuz.
Tammuz is, Tammuz 17 is what they're,
Mhm.
except they're saying the 9th day.
So,
Tammuz, we fast on Tammuz 17,
correct.
not Tammuz 9.
It's like
That's why I was
leading up
thinking,
to
if they were referring to Tisha B'Av, that would make sense. A famine of concubines, so there's no food left for people. Makes sense that would be Tisha B'Av.
right. So again,
why I
there's
was going
this is
there.
only a snapshot. I
Okay,
didn't
yeah.
there's more to these
Okay,
verses.
yeah.
All of 25. But the reason I highlighted it is one, it does talk about why we fast on the 10th of Tevet. And also what's unique is from a Kabbalistic insight, 6 months is huge. It's the, there's 12
Mhm,
months.
yeah,
So
yeah.
6 months is a halfway point. And it shows kind of the
I'll say, I don't think of the 6 months as a halfway point. On 6 days, God created the earth. On the 7th day, God ceased from work and rested. The 7th day, 6 is the completion, is you're nearing the completion before the 7th.
yeah, but that's
Which
out of
represents completion.
12 months.
You could
There's
look at 6 as halfway point.
yeah, so if we actually looked,
That's not a typical way of looking at 6, but yeah, I guess it is one way.
so essentially, if we went more into the planetaries,
Mhm.
like when we look at new moon, full moon kind of concepts, if we actually place the zodiac, like for instance, right now we're in Capricorn season.
Mhm.
The new moon is always in Capricorn, the month of what
Okay.
it is. That's why we, you know,
Mhm.
that's why we have this Rosh Chodesh. It brings us into that energy of that Capricorn. But then we have what is called the full moon, which is like the other side of the coin, right? And it's actually Cancer. Tammuz
Oh,
connected
okay.
to Cancer.
Okay.
So it's just a different cycle
Mhm.
that we're looking at rather than the
Okay.
days of the week.
Yeah.
We're looking at more from the month perspective. And so oftentimes what we plant in one season, we see its, results in the
Yes.
other. So here, what happened was the siege. And now we're seeing, because of that siege, that there was no food.
Mhm.
So very interesting from this text, like those dynamics. And of course, there's more to the story because we get into Av
Mhm.
and the destruction, the complete destruction, which is horrible. And so any insights from this text? That's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So then we're going to move on to the third text, which is Megillat Ta'anit Adar 20. On the 8th of Tevet, the Torah was written in Greek in the days of King Ptolemy, and darkness came over the earth for 3 days. On the 9th of Tevet, our rabbis did not write why we fast. On the 10th of Tevet, the king of Babylon placed his head against Jerusalem to destroy it. on the 8th of Shavat, the righteous people in the days of Joshua, son of Nun, died. Very interesting. You see this progression on like how the rabbis perceived certain correlations, like being, like the Torah written in Greek, that was like to them an abomination.
Yes.
It's you know, as destructive as our temple being destroyed. And then it says, you see all this upheaval from Tevet and Shavat. Then text 4, or the text, I should say, from the Sefer Yisarah, 5:2. This is an interesting one. He produced Ayin, predominant in anger, crowned, combined and formed Capricornus in the world, Tevet in the year, and the liver in the human. So you see like a setting of the scene of, the concepts we talked about earlier. Ayin, anger, it's crowned. Interesting. This looks very dark. Like Capricorn, is in here. All within Tevet, and then the liver. If we were just to move forward based off this one verse in the Sefer Yetzirah, we're looking pretty doomed. Now we go to the next one, which is really interesting. This is 5:10. He made the letter Ayin king over anger, and he bound a crown to it, and he combined one with another, and with them he formed Capricorn in the universe, Tevet in the year, and the liver in the soul. Completely different energy, is it not?
Yeah.
Any insights?
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems to me it's about overcoming that anger and overcoming that darkness,
Yeah.
that we have the ability to do that. You have to recognize, I think, that you have that ability, but we do have it.
So like the awareness is essentially the light to be able to transmute something.
If you think about the liver, what does it do in our body? It filters.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go further on that.
I don't know what else to say.
Okay.
Like, I mean, it's we have to filter out the darkness, I guess, like in
Okay.
order. I don't know.
I like it. I love it. All right. So then we're going to move into text 5. Avodah Zarah 8a8. Once he saw the season of Tevet, the winter solstice, had arrived, and saw that the day was progressively lengthening after the solstice. He said, clearly, the days become shorter, and then the next. Bereshit Rabbah 13:12. Arka, responding to the season of Tevet winter, because it causes its produce to wither. Who profiteer during droughts? People earn money from their crops. Rain indicates divine.
Well, we just read about Joseph and the Egyptians profiteering during droughts during the famine. So, I don't know if that's what this meant.
It's really interesting. And it's a cycle, right? Like if we don't have a part of the cycle, it doesn't work. And so if we didn't have, like, going back to the concept of Israel, this is set in like the lens of Israel. if they did not have rain, they would not have had a profitable year. They had to have these darker months to be able to have a profitable year. That's one thought of it, but there's so much more here.
Yeah.
So, two questions that come to mind. What areas of your life feel like they're under siege? You don't have to answer this one, but it's something to process. And then how can the discipline of Tevet help you overcome challenges? So, practical application to this class for Tevet is Rabbi Bar Zadok often emphasizes the importance of practical spirituality. He might suggest focusing on daily discipline during Tevet, such as setting clear boundaries, committing to Torah study, and aligning personal goals with divine will. Very similar to what we did here. The month also invites us to reflect on our own spiritual sieges. What inner or outer limitations are holding us back? How can we approach these with faith and constructive action? How can we shift the narrative? So the action step that I leave you with is, what is one small action you can take today to feel more centered in your daily life and to feel more connected to Hashem?
Very diving this morning. And I came here, so I feel like I've managed to do that.
That's great. I love it. You're like, check.
Good.
Just want to say thank you and look
Thank
out
you.
for next month
Okay.
is on the, what's today, the 19th? So it's on the 16th of I think it's also Shabbat as well. I think it still is on that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the
Yes.
16th of both calendars.
Okay. Yeah, we're in sync for a short period of time.
So thank you, honey, for joining. Love you, and thank you everyone who can see this on YouTube. All right,
Bye.
bye.